and the standard setting, their data is the standard, their data is the benchmark. It's referred to by everybody, whether it's academicians or the media. They also kind of train members of parliament in their institutes so that they understand the World Bank better. And as a development gatekeeper, they produce reports to kind of give certificates to the country about the investment climate of each of these countries, and foreign investors usually refer to that before they make commitments for investments. India has been getting around $3 to $3.5 billion every year. These are just data. I'm so sorry about the projection. Something wrong. Last 3 years, in 2011 we got some 5 billion, and last year we got around $1.5 billion. And trying to kind of show about the sector. The longest line is about the transportation. 5 big sectors probably in the last 3 years bank have invested is agriculture, energy, water, and transportation. IFC also has around $1.8 billion investment currently in the country. The key concern is that though the World Bank is a small player comparatively in terms of their investment, it's only 3.3% of the development finance that the World Bank is putting, their influence is quite high. The influence is on the policies. They kind of privatize the sectors. We have seen about the power sector, we have seen about the water sector. They influence the policies in such a way that they can bring in the privatization and weaken the public sector. They have, we call it a revolving door policy. A lot of the ED of India is from the PMO, from the Prime Minister's office, and they come back to the government. A lot of people, a lot of senior economic bureaucrats have, at one point or the other, spent some time in one of these institutions, IMF or World Bank. That includes our current governor of RBI. They reinvent themselves every time to kind of make themselves relevant. From project finance, they have gone to kind of sector financing, and from there, policy financing, and now through the financial intermediaries. And in one way or the other, they reinvent themselves every time to be relevant to the business. We have seen that the structure is undemocratic. They function under a thick veil of secrecy. The development model that they promote is neoliberal. The conditionality that they put to the countries are much nuanced than what was earlier in the 80s. And the public money is used to kind of promote the corporate welfare. There's no parliament oversight. The lending decisions are taken between the bureaucrats and the World Bank staff, and there is no public debate about this. The only time that the people or the media or even the members of parliament get to know about it is when the MOU is signed. And that's the time when you can only oppose it and there is no engagement about it. About the accountability, the President Jim Kim started his career, his term 2 years back with a promise of improving World Bank's openness and the accountability. It hasn't kind of seen it. This accountability again, World Bank has the internal mechanisms and also external. The internal mechanisms, the inspection panel for the government projects and the compliance advisor ombudsman for the private, for the mechanisms which finance the private companies. There's a case in Gujarat which is called Tata Mundra, where people, it's a 4,000 megawatt, 4 billion project, out of which World Bank, IFC is only putting 450 million projects. Other financiers are ADB, Korean Exim Bank, PNB Paribas, and other national banks, Indian banks. 2011, the communities put a complaint to the World Bank. It almost took 2 years, and a report was delivered by the CAO confirming all the concerns raised by the people. They said that the environmental and social risk impacts of the project were not considered. There is no social baseline data. IFC's policies of land acquisition was not applied. Cumulative impact of the project was almost every concerns raised by the community was kind of reconfirmed by bank's own mechanism. However, IFC kind of repeated all the findings. They defended their client. CEO is not mandated to make any recommendations. It's the World Bank president who should kind of act upon the findings of the report. He refused to kind of take any action even after 1 year. His own mechanism is being undermined. The legitimacy of the CEO, his own mechanism is being undermined in the whole process. And the communities, North CEO is heard even after the whole process, engagement with that mechanism, even after getting one of the burst reports from such a kind of a body, the violations continue, the company continue their functioning, it's business as usual for them. The campaign is still working. The external accountability, it's not accountable to the parliament. We have seen there's no engagement with the parliament. The structure is undemocratic. The core of the functioning is to promote privatization and corporate welfare. We have seen weakening of the public institutions as a model, as a benchmark for development. It undermines the national laws. There are projects which have been approved by the bank even before the Ministry of Environment and Forest cleared it. So there's clear indication of national laws being, there's undermined. And in an undemocratic structure where money calls are short, neither partnerships will be equal nor accountability genuine.
Thanks, Joe. Very much on time. Any questions for Joe? If nobody else has, can I ask you one? How do you think the new BRICS Bank is likely to shake up the World Bank, or not at all?
And at one level, BRICS Bank is kind of seen as one which challenges the legitimacy of the bank, and it really emerging as a challenge to the hegemony of the World Bank and the most dominated bank. But the other side, we also need to kind of see that how is it promoted? Is it by weakening all the things which have been achieved by the communities and organizations across the globe? After strong fight with the bank and other institutions like that, we have at least some standards, performance standards, some safeguard policies. Is BRIC Bank going to kind of further strengthen it, or is it going to weaken it, or is it going to completely bypass it? So while it's seen as a possible challenge to the hegemony of the Western countries, Western capital, it also needs to be seen that how it's kind of actually implemented. Is it going to be really yet another devil that we need to deal with, or is it really going to be?
Any other questions or points? If not, can I ask the last speaker, Liz, to make a presentation?
That I would probably drop the microphone, so I'd ask the indulgence to stand at the podium. Allow me, Raja, to apologize for coming in the middle of your speech. I'm sorry to interrupt you, and forgive me for not being here on time. I'm very pleased to be with you, and I just realized that my speech is over there. Hold on. There we go. What I would like to do is pick up on Ranja's insights into, and Ajay's as well, into what's really going on with the negotiations over this new global compact, and then to reflect on where the consensus seems to be at the moment, and again, picking up on Ranja's insights. And then what I'd like to do is to reflect with you on where civil society may want to direct its tactical work in the next year ahead. I have to start off by saying that I'm speaking, I'm the head of the UN in India, but if you allow me, in order to have this discussion, I have to speak in my personal capacity. Because if I speak as the head of the UN, I'm going to give you the most kind of boring and set of things you already know. Okay, so the big point about these negotiations is that when the MDGs were negotiated in 2000, a couple of important points. Number one, it was the first time that in an international body we'd ever had a global social compact on development. It didn't exist during the Cold War. In fact, you could argue that at the highest strategic level there were really two compacts. There was one for the first world and there was one for the second world. The second world one was much more sympathetic to the third world. I think the First World's Compact put the Third World very concretely in a marginal position. That was less true of the way that the Second World dealt with the Third World. That being said, when the Cold War ends, we emerge after 10 years of high-level conferences. They started in 1991. They culminated in 2000 with the adoption of the MDGs. We end up with a surprising consensus. I don't think anyone who actually worked for the UN at the time thought that there would be a consensus that was quite easily reached. Colleagues may forget that although some countries were resentful, including India, about the way in which the MDGs were done, there was almost no debate about what was actually in them by the member states. Now, 10 years, 15 years later, as we debate the new Global Social Compact, there isn't anything like that kind of consensus. So we are at a very different moment in terms of geopolitical balance of power and the way in which the compact not only is being negotiated, but what it will actually end up representing. If you would allow me to reflect on the way certain set of actors have approached these negotiations. I'm going to talk about what rich countries want, what developing really poor countries want, and then what countries like India have said they want. And these are all three very different, very incompatible things, which is why you have a proposal with a wholly unmanageable 17 goals and, I've lost track, 160 something targets. How many? 160, there you go. Roll on your stuff. The reason that we have 17 goals and so many targets is precisely because we have such disunity of views on what the compact should actually do. Okay, so what do rich countries want? Ooh, they're pretty clear on this. They want that compact to be absolutely as vague as possible. Okay, so they don't want any detail, they don't want any mechanism linked to it. They're very interested in making sure that the issues which are of global importance are all handled in specific negotiating frameworks, whether it's the World Trade Talks under the Doha round, whether it's the UNFCCC on climate change and environmental sustainability, whether it's population issues under the Cairo process, or whether it's women's empowerment and equality under Beijing. Well, rich countries want to keep it as diverse and diffuse as possible. It's obvious why, as the club called the club in the UN of the 14 rich countries. Some of them you really wonder about. Norway with, all three of its people as part of that club. It is certainly the most unrepresentative club of all the ones that exist in the world. But that club very much acts in unison in the UN. Don't think it doesn't, it does. They meet regularly. They not only have a shared view, but they take active steps to reinforce that shared view. They codify that view, and they make sure it gets into position papers and so forth. They are aware that their position in the world is changing dramatically. They can't control the social compact in the way that it was possible to do it before. Therefore, keep it diffuse, keep it very vague, and make sure that the issues you really care about, like trade, are handled in forums where they will be able to exert much more leverage. Now, developing countries have a very big stake in the Global Social Compact, and they want to make sure that the financial flows which are essential for their short-term survival increase. Okay, so if you are Guinea Conakry right now, you do not have access to international financial instruments. You're really in trouble as a country. And there is a huge expectation that the new Global Compact, the post-2015 agenda, whatever it ends up being, will include commitments to ensuring that countries that have their backs against the wall have access to international financial flows. In terms of countries like Brazil, South Africa, Turkey, Mexico, Indonesia, and very much India, Egypt, and Iran, arguably Nigeria as well, they're interested in something different. It's more of an existential relationship with the post-2015 negotiations. They're fed up with the way that the rules work, and they want to use this unprecedented opportunity where every country in the world sits down and talks to each other. They want to use this as an opportunity to press the restart button, to indicate that the old rules, which the club insisted on, should no longer hold sway. It's existential. They want to make sure that the Global Compact represents new rules. Now, they don't exactly have agreement on what those rules should be, but they are active and aggressive and leveraging and negotiating in ways which were unthinkable even 14 years ago. And they are using this mechanism to signal a rebalancing of global priorities and global power. So it's for those reasons that there's really not a lot of chance that you're going to get the elegance of the original MDGs. 8, not particularly foreign-related goals, but 8 goals. Easily understandable, with the power of political simplicity behind them. We have 17 goals and 160 targets because these 3 major blocks of countries are all coming at this process from fundamentally different starting points. There is an additional battle at play, and that's the battle over how global institutions are going to be governed. So, what's at stake here is the relationship, and it's been touched on by several colleagues already, the relationship between the UN Secretariat, us, the bureaucrats, and the member states which make up the organs of the UN, the General Assembly, the Security Council, and so forth. And the argument here is that a global social compact does not get to be set by the UN Secretariat. It's going to be set by the member states. And the process, which was, Ranja was describing the kind of the chaos in producing the post-2015 process, where you had an open working group on sustainable development goals, you got another one on financing, you've had a secretariat process with a high-level panel and national consultations. There were, in fact, an additional 12 thematic global groups. I mean, it's just a mess. The reason is because there's a real battle going on between the member states who are trying to drive one process and the Secretariat, which is insisting under the Secretary General of driving another process. Now, if you're on the left, let me be very frank, you might think that, or maybe I should reword that because I'm not sure there is a left. If you are on the progressive side of the big social debates of the day, you might think that the Secretariat is where you would want to put your eggs. That might be your best bet. In fact, under the current Secretary General, probably not. In fact, part of the reason why your government, the government of India, is so suspicious of any Secretariat policy or any proactivity on the part of the Secretariat is this suspicion that the Secretariat represents the interests of the 14, not the interests of the 193 countries in occupied Palestine. No, it represents the interests of the 14. In other words, it is a, if not a reactionary force, certainly a force for the status quo. So if you were on the progressive side and you're looking for who to trust and who to work with and who to leverage, you've got the intergovernmental process, which is at best wholly chaotic and certainly unpredictable. Okay, so all of that being said, where have we gotten ourselves to? As Ranja was explaining, the Open Working Group, which honestly is really the game in town. The Secretary General is going to produce a report. It's going to be based on what comes out of the working group and whatever else he wants to put in there. I guarantee that major countries in the world are going to take that report just like they took the report from the high-level panel and put it on the table, if not the trash can. The game is all about what's coming out of the Open Working Group. Why? Because it has the legitimacy of an intergovernmental process. Okay, so where are we in that working group? If you allow, I'm going to share with you basically an internal analysis from the UN of what we think is going on. Here's what we think is going on. Number one, the member states, I'm picking out just the points where we actually agree. There are a lot of points where we don't. Okay, but this, in the 193 countries in occupied Palestine, this is basically where you've got points of agreement. There are 6 of them. Point number one, countries don't want to give up on the vision of the MDGs. So they see the original goals of eradicating poverty, ending hunger, achieving gender equality, improving health and education services as some of the world's highest priorities, and they want member states to commit to achieving these. So you don't get off the hook, you have to keep going on the MDGs. Related to this, however, member states are demanding that the public and basic services which are provided to people are of a much higher quality. So the working group, for example, is insisting that it's not just the number of kids who go to school that matters, it's actually the type of learning that takes place. And in this way, the working group is saying we're going to raise the bar on the MDGs. We're all committed to them, but we're raising the bar. This is welcome, but it does mean that the elegance of the original framework is very much at risk. If you're going to raise the bar, you've got to add a lot of targets for them. If you look at the document that's come out of the open working group, you'll see that. Okay, second point of consensus. Again, this is something that Ranja talked about, and it's really key. The biggest takeaway, if you're on the progressive side of the house from the open working group, is the insistence that inequality has to be tackled. You know, thank bloody God, because it's taken a long time. I mean, we have seen in the last 35 years, at no point since modernity begins with the French Revolution, anything like the increase in equality that we see now. Member states of the UN have had their heads in the sand for a very long time, and finally, thanks in large part through the insistence of global civil society, member states are prepared to at least acknowledge that this is a problem. I know you know all these facts, but the statistics are so scary just to say them again. Inequality has increased by 11% in developing countries in the time span of the MDGs. The richest 1% of the world owns 40% of the world assets. I know you know that. The bottom half owns no more than 1%. UNDP's Inequality Adjusted HDI, Human Development Index, shows that the average loss to human development since the MDGs were adopted because of inequality worldwide is a staggering 23%. I'm going to hurry up here. Third thing we agree on. The Sustainable Development Working Group has underlined the point that something has to be done about the environment. Now, the big debate is whether or not you do something about it inside of post-2015 or whether you do something about it outside of post-2015. The countries that have the most at stake, including India and China and the US and Germany, all want the discussion to take place outside of post-2015. Okay, so the people that are going to have to change the way they consume and produce do not want it in post-2015. Fourth point of consensus, finally, everybody agrees that you've got to put full employment back up there. We call it decent work, because Washington would drop it. We called it full employment, but it's back on the agenda, and in a wholly unexpected way. It's the other big victory of the open working group. Big victory number one is inequality. Big victory number two is decent work and full employment. It's back at the top of the global agenda. The fifth area of consensus is that we're going to promote, not necessarily have to achieve, but we are going to promote gender equality. It's important not to underestimate the reactionary forces among member states. You're aware of the alliance between the Vatican, Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, Egypt, to take the commitments that the international community made to gender equality and launch off of it, roll them back. The Open Working Group is trying to hold the line on that. That's important. And then finally, the last thing that we all agree on, no, actually, I think there are only 5 things that we agree on. There's not a 6th thing. Last point I want to raise about what didn't happen with the Open Working Group, because this is important for civil society. Global civil society, when they engaged with the Open Working Group, said it's time for an accountability revolution. Right now, the only way countries are globally held accountable is through a handful internationally agreed regulatory frameworks, like WTO, like some of the agreements on climate, and most importantly, if you behave badly as a country, and the UN has to send in peacekeeping operations. What an awful lot of people wanted was to say that there has to be global accountability on whether or not you ensure that your citizens can go to school, have decent health care, and deserve a job. Lost that battle. All of those issues are going to be dealt with in, quote, the policy space that's been given to national governments. There is absolutely no mechanism being discussed by anyone on post-2015 at this stage on holding governments accountable through international mechanisms for what's actually going to be in the agreement. So the accountability revolution that many people had expected would be reflected in this compact is going to have to wait till the next one.
Thank you, Lise. Very interesting insights from the UN, and thanks for the frank talk. Any questions for Lise? Or any of the other panelists? We have 2 minutes for a break. Any of the panelists wants to say any last words? Ajay?
One, that there is now not much clarity about the scope of engagement of major groups in the process after the SDGs have been submitted. One is that. Do you have some ideas about what kind of engagement can be possible? Secondly, I would also like to ask you that whether UN has any kind of plans to take this debate at the national level. Last year, of course, UNDP had organized consultations on these issues. But what now after OWG? Yeah.
Thank you. On the question of engagement in civil society, I mean, if you were going to be really tactical, you might think about approaching the part of the UN Secretariat that will be facilitating the intergovernmental process and making a nuisance of yourself. And we could have a quiet word about exactly which phone number I'm going to give you to do that. There is a part of the Secretariat that is going to be using its good offices on behalf of the Secretary General to facilitate the intergovernmental work. And, you know, I do all over them all the time. And I would, rather than have consultative leverage, I would have very targeted politically, you know, the nuisance type of leverage. That would be one way. The other way, of course, is to, you know, get on your bicycle, be in New York, and spend a lot of time with the member states that will have the most say about this process. I'll tell you which countries they are. Obviously, the UK on behalf of the club. Norway, of course, because Norway asserts itself as a great global power with 3 people in it. India will have a lot to say, Egypt will have a lot to say, South Africa will, Brazil will, and Turkey will. That's true. They're going to have disproportionate influence over the way the negotiations go. So making sure that those permissions are constantly aware of your expectations might have a payoff. In terms of the consultative process, if you allow me, perhaps just to clarify, when I was saying that there was all the confusion over how to create the post-2015, the part that the UN bureaucracy was asked to do, one of the things we were asked to do was to organize national consultations. What happened in India, actually the consultation in India was the best globally. Okay, so what happened here was that 9 constituencies were identified, and there were national conveners for each constituency. The number 1 constituency was civil society. There was a government constituency, trade unions, business, small farmers, women, youth, think tanks. I'm probably forgetting something. Okay, so a national convener was identified for each one, and the national conveners held whatever kind of consultation they wanted. All the UN did was then close the door, put all the 9 conveners in a room, and we agreed on that report, of which the government was only prima pares. So when you say the government didn't have a consultative process with civil society, if you ask them, they'll say, oh yes, we did. We sat in a room with the conveners and yelled at each other about, I mean, this will not surprise you, what they yelled about had to do with caste and how caste was presented in the report. There were other points of discussion as well.